Okay, so as always, if you want the code for this question, it's in the description. But if you want the explanation, keep watching this video. So, this question is basically really easy, but they tricked you with the test cases. The test case they have given you ones and minus ones, but if you notice the conditions, they gave that a of I in that case will be less than or equals to 10 power 9 a of I, which is the elements in the array. So first of all, they tricked you there, and second, it's a little bit the concepts. There are a lot of possible ways to do it, and one of the possible way will give you the correct answer. So if you get bogged down in other ways, it will lead you to a path which is complicated. But let's forget about that, and I'll explain to you how to solve this thing. First of all, they are given us two numbers n k. First, the first input is this. Ren is the size of the coming array, and k is a number of operations that we can perform. And in the array, we're given the array like this. You can also have 6 too if it's 4 or something. So the elements are not just 1 and minus 1. That is one of the tricks. If you want to try it again, you can try it. But if you want to watch the video, you can continue this. So, for example, minus 1 and 6. K is the number of operations you can perform. The operations being changing the sign of a particular number, which means that you can change the sign of this number to plus, something like this. You can change the sign of this number to minus. That is what operation means. So you have to perform exactly k operations, exactly, no less and no more. So which means that 2 must be performed. You can't perform 0 or 1, any of those, just 2, and not 3 and 4 and so on. So it's given that given these k and n and the array need to perform the operations in such a way that the resulting sum of this array will be the maximum value. So in order to do that, first of all, we need to make sure that we maximize. If we have any negative values, first thing first, make sure that we can make them positive so that the sum will be increasing, and so on. So it's a greedy problem basically. So the first intuition you may be getting is, for example, if k is 2, there are two operations we can make. There are two negative elements. So we can change these 2 to positive. Exactly 2 has been made and k is now done. And the sum will be 8. This is one of the only maximum possible value you can get for this array. So, but this is for this array. What if the array is a bit complicated? What if the array is minus 12, minus 4, minus 2, 0, 2, 6, 12? What if it's how many? 7. 7 and the k is 5. Something like this. So, what if we're given something like this? Now, in order to solve this thing, what you need to do is the first thing, obviously, as always, is we need to make sure that there are, as long as the k is greater than the number of negative elements, we need to make sure that all the negative elements is positive, or at least first we need to look at the negative elements, because they gave that the array is in sorted order 2, so we don't need to sort them. We just need to look at the beginning. We start from the beginning and to go to each and every element, and we need to make sure that as long as k is there, means like if you perform one operation, then k will become 4. So if you perform another one, k will become 3. So as long as k is greater than 0, we need to make sure that every single negative element in the array is made positive, so that the sum can be increasing. So now we've done this thing. After this, it will become 2. So we perform 3. All the negative elements first have become positive now. But there are still two operations left, and we have to perform those 2 operations. So let's forget 0 is here. We'll take 1 instead of 0 to make things simpler. Yeah. So now this is the array we have. We still have k is equals to 2. Now what should we do here? When we have all the elements as positive, we need to perform 2 operations first of all. But here, let's look at this thing like this. If in an array we have to make something negative and we want the sum to be maximum, the best thing you can do is take the least element out of this array and do the operations on this. Now, if in any case the 1 turns out to be negative, still okay because the least possible number in this one. It's the minimum number out of the array. So the sum will still remain the maximum. It will be the number we'll get will the maximum possible sum. If we need to convert one of the elements of this array as negative. So for this one, there are two things we need to make sure. First, we need to find out the minimum element of the array. Second, the second point here is once we found out the minimum element, this is after there are no more negative elements. So as long as there are negative elements, turn them into positive. As long as k is greater than 0 and there are negative elements, turn it into positive. Once there are no more negative elements, all of them are positive and k is still remaining, then what you should do is first find the minimum value of this array so that we can get this, we can perform our operations on this one. Now what do I mean? We still have k is equals to 2, right? We need to perform the operation 2 times. So why only one element? Here's the trick. They said that another point which they mentioned is you can perform the same operation, multiple operations or 2 or more operations on the same element, which means that we can perform n operations, or not n operations, we can perform x amount of operations on one element if we choose to. So we can take the minimum number 1 and we can perform k 2 times, which is that in this case, let's say we perform it, we'll get -1. So k is now 1. We perform -1 again, so it will be 1. K is 0. So basically in this case we were lucky because we got 1 here. We got the positive value. So the first step is, as always, to find the minimum element. The second step is this number, we got 1. Now whether we get 1 or -1 depends on the value of k. The value of k is 2. Now 2 is an even number. So if we have an even number, we'll get the positive number itself. At the end, if you do number of operations, if it was 4, we'll still get 1 at the end. If it was 6, we'll still get 1 at the end. If the number is, the k is odd, then we'll get odd -1, because if you look at it 1, if it's 1, then just if you perform one operation, it will become 0. So we'll get -1. So with this one, we have clarified one step, which is that first, you need to make sure, first as always, if there are negative elements, you need to turn them into positive as long as k exists. Once there are no longer any negative elements, the next thing we are supposed to do is find the minimum element from the array. And now that we have the minimum element, we need to look at the k, value of k. If the value of k is even, we need to convert, this element remains the same. If the value of k is odd, then we need to change this thing into negative value in the array. So this is nice, but write this in code, this thing will change a bit. So I'm going to explain the code now. So now we get into the code. The explanation is that is the explanation, but when you write it in code, we get a few complications which we are supposed to solve. The logic is still the same, but the thing is, now if you look at it, while k is not equal to 0 and I is less than n, that's the thing, right? The first thing what we're supposed to do is, as long as k is not equal to 0 and as long as we are not in the element, the value of I iteration is in the range of the bounds of array. If it doesn't cross array, hope it doesn't, because if k is greater than 0, I mean k is greater than n itself, then you cross the bounds and we'll get an index out of bound error. So for while k is equal to not equal to 0 and I is less than n, now we can start our thing, which is that first of all, if area of I is less than 0, then what we want to do is change the array element in the array itself. So what we'll do is AR of I is equals to absolute value of AR of I. So we change the value of array of I to the absolute value. So if it is negative, basically it will become positive in Python. This is what we'll do, and k will become -1. K minus equals to 1. We'll decrease k for each increment. Else, this, now this is the first step as I told you. The negative elements change into positive. Now, we don't have any more negative elements. It's either 0 or positive. With this one, what we'll do is we'll find minimum of array. It's some m. Let's say m. M is the minimum of the array. We'll find the minimum value of the array. Since there are no negative values, the minimum value will be positive. Now, the next thing we'll do is if k percentile 2 is not equal to 0, this. If it is divisible by 2, if k is an even number, then we don't need to do anything because the minimum value will stay the same after the k number of operations, the remaining k number of operations. So if it's odd, it will change to -1. But what I'll do here is, instead of changing, because we found the minimum value, it's a function. So we don't know the index of the value. We again iterate through it. Now since I don't want to write a function where we find the index 2, what I'll do is I'll do a simple trick, which is I'll have a variable remove. Remove variable. What this remove variable will do is, I think the handwriting is not good. Remove. What this remove variable will basically do is, I'll write it here. If you're given an array, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. If, for example, after k number of operations, this will become -1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we'll get, right? If k is odd, then we'll get this. So, if we add this thing, what will we get? We'll get 9, 8. 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 1, 9 minus 1 is 8. This will get 10. So, you notice this thing, 10 and 8. If we subtract 10 by the value of 1 into 2, which means that 2 into 1, you get 8. So basically, you can keep this thing positive, but as long as you subtract the remove value, you'll get the original value you want. Basically, what I'm doing here is remove is 2 times of the minimum value, which means that m value, which means that whatever element we're getting, we're keeping it as positive. So 10, we'll get the answer as 10. But later on, we'll remove this value 2 into 1 from it. So I don't need to convert this thing into -1. We can just keep it as it is. And we can subtract it later on from the sum. That's what I'm doing here. And after that, it's just we can make k into 0, because since if it's positive or if it's even or odd depends on the number. And after that, k will be 0, because if it's even 3 times, then 3 times we iterated, we'll get minus. If not, then we get plus. So after this thing, everything is well and good. But there is one problem, which is the next part of the code. Everything is well and good, but what if the value of k is greater than the value of n itself? So we iterate through each and every one of those. And what if every single element in the array is negative? The value of k is greater than value of n. So all the negative elements will turn to positive, and the loop will just break out. K is still remaining, but the loop will break out because we iterate through each and every one of the element, and all of them are negative, so k won't become 0 anywhere. So we break out, but we still have k remaining. The same logic applies again. If k is remaining and everything is positive, we make sure that we take the minimum element and we take that thing and we do the same thing. This is this operation, which means that here instead, after the code, we write if k is not equal to 0, then we write this thing. If m, then we again take the minimum value of the array and we take this thing. That's it. Okay. If k is not equal to 0, m is equal to minimum of array. If k then percentile 2 is not equal to 0, remove 2m again and k is equal to 0. This is for k is not equal to 0. In that case, if we see in the while loop, if we get into this greater than 0, greater than, if the value is greater than or equal to 0, then obviously the k will become 0. So the only reason this if condition will come after the while condition is if all the elements are negative and the value of k is greater than value of n. In that case, k will still be remaining. So what you need to do is take the minimum value of the array in which all the elements are positive and perform the same operation here again. And what you'll do at the end is, after all this thing is done, simply write print sum of array minus remove. As I told you, at the end we have to do the remove function. We need to remove the value of that particular number, the minimum number from the array, and remove is already 2 into that value. So initially remove will be 0. So if in case there is no value removed, there is no need to remove any value, then it will be array minus 0, which is still the sum we'll get. So at the end, if the remove value is 0, we'll get the same answer. If the remove value is some value it needs to be, we'll get the same answer. So yeah, that's the basic code for this question. It's pretty tricky. Not tricky in a way. There are a lot of possible solutions for this question. But one of them, there are other possible solutions for this which I don't know of. But for me, this is the most simplest one. Just go through the array and you look at these things and these steps, you follow them. You get it. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching the video. The code is in the description and thank you.